Have you ever just disappeared from someone's life without warning, without a single word, and without any intention of ever returning? I'm not talking about some childish game where you pull back to see if they'll chase you, but walking away for real, cutting the cord silently because you finally realized your worth. People think that if you leave quietly, the other person won't even notice, but that's where they're wrong. Your absence does something they don't expect. It creates a void so heavy that it forces them to confront a world where your energy is no longer available to them. At first, they brush it off, thinking you're just upset, and you'll come back like you always do. They'll keep checking their phones, waiting for your name to pop up, because that's what they're used to. You've always been the one to fix things, to reach out first, to break the silence because you cared, even when they didn't deserve it. But this time, you're not coming back, and that silence grows louder with every passing day. The phone that used to buzz with your messages is now quiet. The comfort of knowing you're just one text away is gone, and the silence becomes a mirror that shows them what life is like without your presence. It starts as a subtle unease they can't quite name, a small discomfort in the back of their mind as they go about their day, but then it turns into a restlessness, a constant thought that maybe they pushed you too far this time. Maybe they took you for granted one too many times, and maybe you finally meant it when you left. Your absence becomes the loudest conversation they've ever had with themselves, making them question every choice, every word, every moment where they didn't appreciate you when you were there. When you leave, that's when they finally start to see you for who you were. It's strange how people only truly appreciate something once it's gone. Once the comfort they took for granted is no longer there to catch them when they fall. They begin to replay every moment you shared, from the small gestures you made, to the way your energy could shift the atmosphere in a room, to the way you listened when they needed to vent, even on days you were breaking yourself. They remember the times you checked on them, the times you showed up, the way your messages made them feel seen, the way your presence felt like a safe place they could return to. They remember how you supported their dreams, how you encouraged them when they doubted themselves, how you believed in them when they couldn't believe in themselves. These memories hit differently in your absence, because now, there's no one to fill that space you held. The conversations you used to have, the laughter you shared, even the late-night check-ins, all become echoes reminding them of what they lost when they failed to appreciate you. They begin to realize that it wasn't your job to fix them, to save them, to carry the connection on your own, but you did it anyway, and they let you. They remember how you gave them your energy, your loyalty, your consistency, while they became comfortable, believing you would always be there no matter how they treated you. But when you're gone, the reality hits hard that your presence was a gift, not an obligation. They realize you weren't just someone in their life. You were someone who made their life feel brighter, calmer, and more alive. And now, they're left feeling the emptiness of what they took for granted, understanding too late that you mattered more than they ever let themselves admit. Eventually, the silence becomes too loud for them to ignore, and that's when they start testing the waters to see if you're still there. It starts small, a random text that says, "Hey," with no context, a like on an old photo, a quick reaction to your story just to remind you they exist. It's their way of reaching out without really saying what they feel, hoping you'll take the bait and reply first, like you always did before. They want to see if the door is still open, if you're still waiting on the other side, if they still have that access to you that they once took for granted. This is the moment where most people mess up, because it's tempting to reply, to show them that you're still there, to prove that you still care, but you have to understand that this is the test. If you reply too quickly, You give them exactly what they want, reassurance that you haven't really left, that you're still waiting for them in after everything, that you're still within reach. But if you hold your silence, if you continue focusing on yourself, if you refuse to engage with half-hearted attempts for your attention, that's when your absence starts to hit them deeply. The curiosity they had turns into frustration, then into confusion, and eventually into regret. They begin to question why you haven't responded, why you're not chasing them like before, why the dynamic has shifted so suddenly. They start to replay every interaction, every moment where they dismissed you or took you for granted, wondering if they pushed you too far this time. Every day you stay silent becomes a reminder that you're not someone who can be played with, that your presence was a privilege, not something to be treated as disposable. And that realization begins to burn in ways they didn't expect. When they realize they're no longer in control of the situation, that's when they start acting in ways they never did before, trying to get your attention without having to say they miss you. You'll see them posting stories that are obviously meant for you, hoping you'll watch, hoping you'll react. They might post pictures with people they know will trigger a reaction. They'll post captions that sound like they've moved on, like they're living their best life without you, like they're happier than they ever were. But underneath all of that, it's just noise covering the emptiness they now feel in your absence. They're trying to provoke you, to get you to break your silence, to prove that you're still watching, that you still care, that you're still emotionally invested, even if you're not speaking to them. It's their way of testing whether they still have a hold on you, whether they can still pull you back without having to take responsibility for their actions or the way they treated you before you left. This is where your discipline matters the most, because the biggest mistake you could make is giving into these games, reacting to their attempts, letting them see that their efforts are working. Instead, you need to let them keep playing, keep posting, keep pretending, while you stay silent and focused on your own life. You're not ignoring them out of pettiness. You're ignoring them because you respect yourself enough not to get pulled into manipulation. The less you react, the more it drives them crazy, because it shows them that they no longer have control over your emotions, that your peace isn't something they can disrupt with a single post. In that silence, they're forced to realize that you've truly stepped back, and that you're no longer available for them to use for attention, comfort, or validation. At first, they're just curious about what you're doing, checking your profiles, asking mutual friends about you quietly, telling themselves it's nothing, just curiosity. They think you'll eventually break, that you'll reach out like you used to, that you'll return to them once the silence gets heavy for you too. But when you don't, that curiosity turns into something deeper, something heavier. It becomes regret. They start wondering if they made a mistake, if they pushed you away for good this time, if you found someone else who appreciates what they took for granted. They start to realize that you're not coming back, that you're not going to break the silence, that your absence is not temporary this time, and that realization starts to hurt in places they didn't expect. The random "hey" messages turn into "I miss you." The likes on your photos turn into attempts to start conversations, to rebuild the connection they carelessly allowed to slip through their fingers. They try to find ways to slide back into your life, using excuses just to start a conversation, to see if you'll let them back in. But by the time they gather the courage to admit what they feel, you've already grown past them. You've learned to live without their validation, to find your own peace, to create a life where your energy is no longer drained by people who never appreciated it. You're not the same person they left behind. You've evolved into someone stronger, someone who knows their worth, Someone who doesn't need to be needed to feel valuable. That's the real win, not that they miss you, but that you no longer miss them. By the time they realize what they lost, it's too late, because you've already moved on, and their regret is no longer your concern.